Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. Today's tutorial is all about submitting your work to Medium publications. Let's get started. Okay, Medium writers, today we're going to talk about submitting your articles to Medium publications and how to go about doing that. Publications are a great way to get your work on Medium in front of an audience that goes well beyond your own followers. So they're a great tool to use to broaden your audience and to get your work out there in front of even more people than just your own network. So there's three things that we're going to talk about today. Number one, how to apply to be a contributor to Medium publications. There's several ways to do that. We'll go over each one of those. Number two, how to submit your draft. And then number three is really more just a tip. We'll talk about how to be patient while you wait for publications to review your work. That is where we're headed. Okay, part one, applying to be a contributor. So there's a few ways that you can do this, and we're going to talk about each one of them. The first is through a link on the publication's homepage. The second is email, and then the third is using the publication's social media accounts. A couple of points here that I want to touch on. Make sure you're reading the publication submission guidelines and make sure you're reading Medium's curation guidelines. We'll get to that here in just a minute. I am going to flip over to Medium, and the first thing I want to show you is how to apply to be a contributor to a publication that has a link on their website to do so. So we're on the publication Better Marketing's page. This is a pretty big Medium publication and getting bigger every day, one of the fastest growing. And you'll see right up here at the top is this tab that says Write for Us. So lots of publications, lots of the bigger ones and the fastest growing will have an easy way, usually up at the top, for you to just click. It might say submit or something like that, or write for us, or how to submit. And that's what you're looking for. And so you just click that, and it'll take you to what are called their submission guidelines. So definitely read through this, read about what they're looking for. How to submit then will be somewhere in here. And so here, Better Marketing has a form that they want you to use. So you would go here and fill in the information that they're looking for. They're going to want to see a draft. So you should ideally have something in draft state that you would like to submit to the publication. And then you would just give them a draft link right here where it says link to a draft. And then they'll check that out and hopefully add you as a contributor. So that's how Better Marketing does it. Let's go look at a couple of others. I think Publicious does the same thing. Let's go find them. And let's see, I don't see a tab that says submit. I'm going to try their About page. And this looks like it. Yeah. To get approved as a writer, fill out the form at the bottom of this page. So here again, you'd want to read through what submission or Publicious's submission guidelines, what they're looking for, and things like that. And then you'd want to fill out this form. So you'd go here, very similar to Better Marketing. Actually, not very similar yet, but some more things that they're asking you to read through, what they look for, style, headings, images, all of that. Make sure you read through all of that thoroughly. They will reject you if you submit something that doesn't meet their guidelines. So all of these publications get so many requests that they don't hesitate to reject a really good article if it doesn't meet their style guidelines or guidelines for images or anything like that. So please read those thoroughly. Once you have, you would go here, and there again, email address. Now, Publicious is different. They want to know if you've been writing on Medium for 3 months or more. So they want to be able to go check out your work and know that you're going to stick around. So a little bit more information, a little more difficult to get accepted into Publicious, but that's how you would do that. Let's go. I want to show you one more. We're going to go look for the Ascent. another very new writer friendly publication, and I believe it's in this Start Here tab up at the top. Yep, there we go. How to Write for the Ascent. Again, read the submission guidelines, and then I believe the Ascent still has an embedded form. Yeah, it's coming up now. An embedded form here that you would just work through their questions right here on their submission guidelines page. Again, make sure you read everything thoroughly and that you're following their guidelines, and hopefully you will be accepted as a contributor. Again, it's best, probably I would say required, to have a draft that you want to share with them. And so make sure you're doing that. Okay, that's the first method. Okay, next method is by using an email address that you find somewhere on the publication page. So we're going to go check that out next. I've got a publication pulled up here called Jane Austen's Wastebasket, one of my favorite newer publications. Really funny if you like reading humor. I definitely check this one out. But I want to show you here. So there is a submission guidelines tab up at the top, but when we click that, there's no form. There are, of course, submission guidelines, so you'd want to read these. And it looks like the editor is Kyrie Gray, and Kyrie gives you some instructions here on how to email her in order to get added as a contributor. So you'd want to read through all this, and then here down at the bottom, there's Kyrie's email address if you want to become a contributor to her fantastic publication. So that's how you would do that. And a lot of the smaller, maybe some of the newer publications aren't quite as large as some of the ones that we looked at before, don't have a form that you would fill out. I'm going to show you one more that's not as straightforward, and it's actually my publication. I do not have a form that you fill out to get added. My publication is called Management Matters. And so you don't see any kind of submission guidelines or anything up at the top. It's not very obvious where you would go to become a contributor. So we're just going to go to the About page. And here it is right here. So I just put a simple message in there. New writers and contributions are welcome. Email me here, and I'll check out your work and probably add you as a contributor to the publication. So that's the second method of getting added as a contributor to Medium publications. Okay, one last method for reaching out and trying to be a contributor is to use the publication's social media accounts. So I've got a publication pulled up here on Medium called Tenderly. Looks like it's devoted to the vegan lifestyle. And I don't see anything on here that says how to submit or write for us or anything like that. So the first thing I would check is to make sure, is it a really active publication, and are there different writers contributing? And as I look down through here, it sure looks like there are, and it's pretty active. So I'm going to guess that they do take new contributors. It's just not easy to see how. And I tried finding an email address. I scrolled all the way through everything, checked their About page. I don't see an email address anywhere either. So, however, you do see these social media icons up here in the corner. And so that's the third method. If you don't see a submission tab and you can't find an email, then you can always reach out to the publication on their social media accounts and send them either a direct tweet, or you can Facebook message them as well. That has actually worked for me. I've never been added to a contributor by tweeting at them or to them, but I have been added to a publication by reaching out to them directly on Facebook Messenger. Again, have a draft that you'd like to submit. You can share the draft link and reach out to them that way. So that's the third method. I've said draft link a couple of times, and I want to make sure you know what that means. So I'm going to go to my stories, and I've got a test story here, and I want to show you. This is just, I just dumped a picture in here and some text just as a demonstration. to share this as a draft, you'd go up here to the three dots and then select this share draft link. And then you'd copy and paste that either into an email or one of those forms or into your tweet. And then the receiver of that link, they can go check out your draft. And it doesn't make it public at all. You have to have that link to be able to see the draft. But that's how you would do that. Okay. Back here, I want to reinforce again, please read the publication submission guidelines if you can find them before you submit. And then the other tip I want to make sure you do here is to read Medium's curation guidelines. So, getting into a publication, I don't have data on this, but I think getting into a publication raises your chance of being curated by one of them and distributed by a Medium curator. So I want to draw your attention to those curation guidelines as well. I'll do a future tutorial on Medium curation, but I just want to point out where you can find those guidelines, because you certainly want to be abiding by those if you want to get curated, which basically means opening your article up even broader than your own network and the publications network. Actually distributed by Medium is what happens when you get curated. So we're going to go to Medium's help, and I'm just going to search curation guidelines. Here we go. Okay, so that's how you'd find them. I'll put a link to this in the show description out on YouTube so that you can get to it. But here's where those curation guidelines are. So please make sure you're reading those as well as the publication submission guidelines too. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is submitting your draft to a publication. So once the publication has added you as a contributor, if you have notifications turned on within your Medium settings, you'll get an email saying that the publication has added you, and then that opens you up to be able to submit your draft. So you've already shared a draft link, most likely with the publication when you were trying to get added as a contributor. Now you're actually going to officially submit that draft to them. And so we're going to go do that now. And it's one thing I want to point out is that it's really important to submit as a draft. Don't publish the piece first and then submit to the publication. What that does is it takes some of the control out of the hands of the publication so that they can't publish when they want to. And they have publication schedules, and they want to work your piece in when it's optimal both for them and for you. And so submitting as a draft allows them to do that. In fact, I think every publication now very strongly prefers that you submit as a draft, and some of them will actually reject your article just because you've already published it before submitting. So we're going to go back over to Medium now to my test story, and I'm going to show you what you do once you're ready to submit to a publication. No, I'm not going to hit publish. That's what I just talked about. I'm going to go to the three dots, and I'm going to click Add to Publication, and then I have a whole list of publications that I could submit this draft to. And you're just getting started. You might have one or two, but over time you'll build up a good list of publications that you're contributing to as well. So it's really that simple. You pick one, and there you go. Now, it hasn't submitted it yet. In order to do that, I need to click that green button to send it on to them. I am not going to do that. So I would have to do it one more time. This is where I would add my tags. Now, one thing to note is that the publication can add and remove tags as well once you send it to them. And of course, the publication can edit your work as well. So it would take one more click to submit it to the publication. I'm not going to do that. And in fact, I'm just going to back out of this completely. But that is how you would go about officially submitting your work to the publication. Okay, the last thing I want to cover in this tutorial is being patient after you've submitted to a publication. It can take time. Lots of these publications are fielding probably, I would say, hundreds of submissions per day. Some of them will actually reject your draft, and you'll get notification from Medium that your draft was not accepted. However, some of them won't, and your draft will just sit in their inbox forever, really until you remove it. So some publications will tell you how long to wait. If you read their submission guidelines closely, you'll see that somewhere in there they'll tell you how long to wait before you can assume that they're not going to publish your work. Others won't. So I think a good rule of thumb is, 4 or 5 working days is plenty for you to make the determination that the publication is not going to accept your work, and you should go ahead and pull it from that publication and submit it to another one. The way that you pull a draft from a publication, just like you did when you submitted, you go to the 3 dots and you'll get an option there to remove from publication, and then you can add it to another and try another. So I want to show you real quick one publication that does a really good job of letting you know whether you've been accepted or not. Is the first one actually that we looked at in this tutorial, Better Marketing. And we're going to go there, and I want to point something out to you in their submission guidelines. So go through what they're looking for, what you should do before you submit. And down here, just below the form, if you don't hear back from us within 3 business days, please assume that we kindly passed on your submission. So 3 business days, that's pretty reasonable. Nick, a lot of times the editor of Better Marketing will actually reject your work, and he'll send it, if he doesn't want to publish it, and he'll send along a nice note about why he didn't believe it was a good fit for Better Marketing. Really an extra step that some publication editors will do. A lot of them will not do that. Like I said, a lot of them will not even click the reject button. They'll just let the piece sit in their inbox. So if it's been a few days, it might be time to pull it and look for a different publication for that bit of work. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you found this helpful. Here's some ways to get a hold of me. Check out my Medium profile. I do offer some coaching services. You can find those at writing-coaching.com. Or I'm also a coach on the Coach.me platform. There's my information there. You can get to, I'll put all this in the show description, by the way, so you can get to them easily. You can always just email me as well with any questions or anything, maybe a future tutorial topic or something like that. Chris at writing-coaching.com. Thanks, everybody. Go write something.